Hello and welcome back. I'm finally here with another video for my favorite crafty things of 2020. This is a series where I share my favorite products from the previous year, the tried and true products that I reach for often. Today is about inks and tools. If you've missed any of the other videos in this series, I will have a link to the playlist on the top right here and in my description below. Also, and this is very important, be sure to check out my links below. I will not only provide links to the different products I talk about, but next to the product links, I will also link to a video that I've done in the past using that particular product so you can get a closer look at it. I think that's really helpful for anybody seeing a tool that's new to them or if you want to learn more. Also, I have titled this Ink and Tools, my favorites from 2020. But I will be honest with you, I spent a lot of time looking at this, and my favorite inks from 2020 are the same as they were in 2019. I did a complete and very thorough ink video then, and here's a little clip from it where I show my favorite inks. I do a comparison between the inks. I talk about the importance of the paper you use, the stamps you use, and the inks you use in getting good results. I talk about when different inks work better than others. If you have not seen this video, I highly encourage you to watch it. Even if you've seen it a year ago, it's worth watching again because it shares a load of information. So instead of redoing it, it would be the exact same as then. I am just going to refer you to that video for my favorite inks of 2020 because it's the same. I go into a lot of detail in it, so please check that out. I didn't want to take the time to redo it because I'd rather bring you another video. So be sure to check that out. I will link below to my favorite inks, but that video has much more information. So again, check that out for my favorite inks from 2020. Okay, now this brings us to tools. Now you probably have seen a lot of the tools that I mention here. A lot of them I've been using for many, many years. There are some newer ones in here. These are tools that I have taken a lot of time to test off screen. I am always careful to test something out quite a bit before I share it because I want to make sure that I share it in the correct way, and I'm really happy with the results that it gives. I will not be covering die cutting in this video because I'll do a separate video on that. But I thought since we just talked about ink, it would be best to start with tools for inking. And I tell you, there were a lot in 2020, and I've kind of boiled down the ones that I reach for the most, but a lot of it is personal preference. I think 2020 was the year that many stamping companies tried out different types of ink blending brushes, and there are a lot of them on the market. And I know some people still like to get the inexpensive makeup brushes. That works too, whatever works for you. I tend to use the stamping company's products just because I really want to support the industry, but try whatever you feel comfortable trying. I also feel like our industry really put a lot of effort into bringing many different types of blending brushes to us. So we have the ones with the handles, ones that you kind of grip in your fist, and even small ones that stack together. I have used many different ones over the year, and I'll tell you, I do use all the different types. And let me give you a little bit of information on when I reach for the different ones so you can see if any of them would work for you. Now, whenever I do ink blending, I either like to work on my Tim Holtz media mat. That's the black grid background. I'll talk about that a little later. But usually I like to use this Waffle Flower water media mat. That's the white surface. It has like a grippiness to it. So when you put your paper on, see how it doesn't slide when you touch it? And if you put it on the glass, it slides. So why I like to use it for ink blending is it kind of holds the paper there so I don't have to get fingerprints on it as I apply the ink. But it's totally up to you. I also like that it's a white surface so I can see the excess ink on my work surface and pull it on to the cardstock. So let's start with the blending brushes with the handle. Now there are lots of these from different companies. The two that I have been using lately are the Gina K Designs and the Honeybee blending brushes. The Gina K design comes in this basic size that works for a variety of uses. And I like that it's white and it has white bristles. And there's an awesome stand that I will show you. The Honeybee ones come in, I think, 2 different sizes, and this big one is nice. So these are the two different ones I use. Now, I don't think you have to have a different blending brush for each color. You could have one for like pinks, orange, and yellows, another for green, blue, and purples, and then one for neutrals. But I do recommend a separate brush for dye inks than you would use for pigment inks or oxide inks. So really these brushes are meant for dye inks, but I use them with my oxide inks and no problem. But I do have a separate brush designated for oxide inks. I also have a designated brush for some other inks, which I'll show you later. So when I do my blending, I take the handle by my hand and then I put my finger on the top of the brush head. But there are many different ways you can do this. I find this grasp allows me to kind of control how much ink I'm putting down. I start by putting my ink on the work surface first and then working my way on. If I dab it on the ink pad and then go straight to the paper, sometimes it'll leave like a circular mark. I do find blending brushes like this with these little hairs does a much better blending job for me than any kind of inking foams. I still use those when I want to put a heavy amount of ink down quickly, but these allow you to control to get soft looks and blended looks very easily. Some companies offer smaller blending brushes, but these are the two sizes I use. I don't actually use the small ones ever, and I do like the white bristles. Now, I will say there are two blending brushes that I have designated to only be used with two different inks. So my blending brush on the left, I only use with white pigment ink. My blending brush on the right, I only use with Versamark ink. That way, I don't contaminate anything. But being able to use these inks over a stencil is just amazing. The white gives beautiful blending over a stencil. The Versamark allows you to do heat embossing over a stencil. So if you do want inks or blending brushes for those inks, please make sure you designate them for those inks only so that you don't contaminate other ink pads. The reason I really like the Gina K blending brushes, besides the size and that they're white, is check out this stand. This is the best inking stand that I've tried because they don't fall out. You can see how they fit in there nicely and they're not going to fall out if you kind of knock it on your table. It's easy to turn. They are just in there safely. Each one has a spot. There are lots of brushes in here, one for each color. And they even have these little clips that you can put on the handle to designate the color, even though you can tell from the brush head like what color you are using that brush for. Now there are additional clips for other colors. You could skip the gray and the black and use that for white pigment ink and Versamark ink if you want to. But these are the ones that I use for dye inks, and then I have some honeybee brushes that I use for oxide inks, and that way I can keep those separate. But again, you can get away with just a few of these brushes and just rub the excess ink off on a dry cloth in between switching colors. But I tell you, if you do a lot of ink blending like me, it's really handy to have these brushes. And again, this stand is great, and it looks like it will hold other brand brushes. But again, this holds the Gina K all nice and tidy in this beautiful little rainbow. So this is newer. I have been using this for about a month now, and I really like it. Okay, now the other type of blending brush that I recommend are these large blending brushes. Altenew and Pink and Main have these. The Altenew has white bristles. The Pink and Main was the first to hit the market. The reason I like these is because they're large and it's smooth. This is great for doing large blended backgrounds. I find these very easy, the easiest for blending large backgrounds. So here I'm just using a distress ink, and this is Spice Marmalade, and you can see how easily and quickly this blends. So you could choose either. I know some people feel this is easier grip for their hand. If you have arthritis or anything, I don't know which would work. This one feels very comfortable to me, and there are a few ways you can grip it. It also has a little stand that you can slide it in so that it doesn't get ink all over your work surface, but it's totally up to you which type of blending brush you'd like. Now, Pink and Main also has a smaller version of this. It also has a stand, and you can see that it also has the smooth bristles, and you can get beautiful blending with this into smaller areas. I do have these brushes, again, separated for my dye inks, which includes distress ink, and it's separated from my oxide inks because they have a pigment property. If you like to get into tighter areas with your blending, this is a good option. Another that's good for tight areas is from Altenew. There are 4 of these in a set, and you can see they have the smooth bristles on the bottom, a little bit smaller than the pink and mane, but there's no handle on the top. This is great if you want to get into those tight spaces, or maybe you've put down a stencil and you want to ink different areas, different colors. The little colors that you see on top of these are little die cut circles that I added, so I knew which color it was when it's sitting on my shelf. But again, you really don't need to label the color because you can tell from the bristle what they are. But I will say again, be sure to separate your dye inks from your oxide or pigment inks. There's also the iCrafter brushes. These all stack together. You get the whole set here. And this allows you to get into super tiny areas. I haven't been using this one as much since I've gotten the Altenew and Pink and Mane small brushes, but it is great for those tiny spots. I don't use it much for blending backgrounds like I'm doing here, but if you want to work in small areas over stencils or die cuts, this is very helpful. The brushes seem a little more firm on these than the others because they're so tight and small, but you can see a comparison here between the Altenew. So those are the many different options that I reach for. You don't need them all by any means, but I thought I'd show them and demonstrate them all so you can pick what might work well for you. By the way, I'm trying to squeeze in a lot of information into this video, and I may forget something or leave something out. Be sure to check my pinned comment on this video. I will put anything there I need to add. It might be helpful, so it's worth checking out. Now there is another inking tool that I used a lot off screen and I just started using in videos, and it is super handy. This is called the ink stand. You know when you take an ink cube and use a blending brush on it and you get ink all over your fingers because you have to hold the cube still? This ink stand makes it so much easier to pick up ink with your ink applicator and bring it to your paper. I tell you, when I'm making a bunch of cards at once, it's really handy to have the inks laid out like this and the caps not getting all mixed up. So you can see how it holds the ink pad still as you take your applicator to it, so you don't have to use your fingers to do so and get all inky. Since getting this one, they have now come out with a smaller version of this and ink stands for a full-size ink pad in the lid, and there's magnets on the side so you can hook them together. It's really brilliant. Looking forward to getting that order, and I'll be sure to share those too. So instead of holding an ink pad like this and using the blending brush with it, the stand holds it and keeps it all in order. Little things like this make a big difference for me, and I just wanted to share it with you. I know many people have gotten this ink stand and have been really happy with it too. By the way, this is what the individual full-size ink pad ink stands look like, and you can see how they kind of hook together, and then the smaller ink cube ink stand. And I really love that this was created by a crafter and her husband. She told her husband her fingers were getting all inky from the mini cubes and she needed to get the full size, and he's like, I've got a solution for that. I think that's brilliant, and I love to support other crafters. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. I, again, will be showing these bigger sizes once I get them in the mail. Okay, now that we've covered inking tools, let's move on to other types of tools. First and foremost, I highly recommend getting a stamping tool. The stamping tool that I prefer is the MISTI. This year they came out with the MISTI 2.0, which has many improvements, and I will provide a link below to a video that shares all of those improvements. I find that I spend less time stamping because I don't make as many mistakes when I use the MISTI stamping tool. I also find that I can do really cool techniques with it, and I can mass produce. There are other stamping tools on the market. You can check those out, but this is the one that I always go back to. Also, the stamping tool now comes with a bar magnet. You don't have to buy it separately. I like to put tape on mine so it has a little handle, and this will hold your paper in place as you do your stamping. The accessory that I do recommend getting with this is the mouse pad. That's that grid piece that you see in there. It's reusable and you can keep it for the life of your MISTI. You remove it when you want to stamp with cling stamps. But this allows you to stamp in the exact spot repeatedly and do other fun things. Now, I use MISTI in almost all of my videos. Any stamping tool would work for these different techniques, but I tell you, it is really handy to have. When I find a new stamper and they say, what should I get? I always say, save up to get a stamping tool first and then move on to stamps. Now in 2020, I spent a lot of time finding a sticky mat that would work in my stamping tool. I'll link below to the set that I like. I think 3 are in a pack, and you can cut them in half to get 2 out of each. What I do is I cut it down to fit in my MISTI. So this is one of the sticky mats, and I'm putting it right into the corner of my MISTI and making little marks with a permanent pen so I know where to cut it. I'm basically cutting it so it fits in right on top of my mouse pad that's in there. So you can make it the same size as the mouse pad. And I just use my trimmer to cut it down. When you get the sticky mat, it's got quite a bit of stick to it. It will tend to lose some of its stick over time and be easier to remove the paper. If you want to speed that up, you can just kind of press it like against your jeans a few times and some of the stick will go away. But I found that I can use one of these mats quite a long time before I need to switch to a new one, and you can clean them with baby wipes. If you have a Cricut or a Silhouette and you have leftover mats from that, you can definitely use that too. So now we have the sticky mat that fits inside of our MISTI. So we can put a little, say a die cut onto it, it'll hold it there. We can put a stamp and line it up with that and stamp on it and it won't move. We don't need to use the magnet for that. I have demonstrated the sticky mats many times in videos, and I will link to one where I do here. It really is a handy tool to have. This is the one that I'm currently using. You can see it has been used a lot, stamped on a lot, but it still works great. I cannot recommend a sticky mat enough. I store mine inside of my MISTI underneath the mouse pad, and I just place it sticky side down in there, and whenever I need it, I can take it out. Okay, another accessory that I have used for many years, you can see mine is kind of worn. It is my Simon Says Stamp Grid Transparency. Simon Says Stamp sells these, but you could also make your own if you are crafty. I'm not crafty that way. It is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it helps you to find the center of a card and also make sure your sentiments are straight before you close the door on the MISTI. I even use it without my MISTI stamping tool, which I've demonstrated in videos, but this little sucker has saved me many times over the years. So here is an example. Say I want the center, I can hold the grid transparency there, remove it, and then press it down. And I know that that will be center. The second tool that I recommend to every crafter is the Tim Holtz Media Mat. This is a glass work surface. This is the full-size version, and there is a travel size that's smaller and a lefty version so that the white area is on the other side. It does come with a white craft sheet, but I don't actually use that. I only use the glass surface. I like that it is black because if you think about it, most of the cardstock we stamp on is white, so the contrast is helpful. It also has the grid that won't rub off. At the top, the 0 starts at the center, and on the bottom, it starts on the left. You can easily find the midpoint, and those grid lines are so helpful in lining up things as you create. You can watercolor on this, you can ink on this, and it'll all clean off nicely. Even glue comes off nicely. Now, I'm going to zoom in here. This is what you see me work on in almost every video. Right here, that's what it looks like. It's that glass media mat. The only thing I do not do on this mat is cut with a craft knife. I just grab a self-healing mat when I want to do that. However, sometimes in videos, you will see me grab this work surface, which is much larger. It's from Altenew. It is a giant self-healing mat, so you can cut on it, but you have to worry because sometimes it will stain. On one side, it's black with a white grid, and the markers are in inches. On the other side, it's gray with a black grid, and it's metric. So you have the 2 different options with this one self-healing mat. I also like that there are marks for the card sizes there in the middle, so you can really line things up very easily. So one of these 2 work surfaces I recommend. I do use the glass one more often, but it's up to you and your personal needs. I actually keep this one under my glass work surface so I can switch it whenever needed. Next up we have scissors, and I do recommend having a big pair of scissors and a small pair. I actually have 3 different types that I like to use. First up, for big scissors, I use these Fiskars 8-inch scissors. Now, I used to have them in a blue color with glitter. They recently changed it to have a handle that is gold with glitter, but they're the same scissors. These are great for cutting bigger pieces or cutting off the edge of a card. So you've probably seen these in the blue in my videos a lot. I also like the Fiskars titanium micro tip scissors. I've been using various versions of these for years. They have a little latch to close, and the handles spring back so your hands don't get tired when you're doing fussy cutting. These are super sharp, great for any kind of fussy cutting. Now this year I have also been using the haberdashery scissors from Tim Holtz. Now please note, these are different than the original scissors Tim Holtz came out with. They come in these cute little tins, and there are 2 sizes. Really, you don't need both, just choose whatever you might use. I grab whatever's handy. Now these are different than his original scissors in that they are smooth, not a serrated edge. They're durable, they have the soft handles so your hands don't get tired, and they are super sharp. I think they might be meant for like fabrics, but wonderful for paper. They're titanium, durable, easy to clean, handy, a great size. So I use all 3 of these, but I do recommend having 1 big pair and 1 small pair. But if you want to go with one, I would go with the version on the left, the haberdashery in the bigger size. That's, I think, a good all-around pair of scissors. Okay, next, trimmers. If you watch my videos, you've probably seen me use this one in almost every video. It's the Tim Holtz trimmer. There is a bigger guillotine version that he has with the big handle on it. I prefer the smaller size. It's handy, it's lightweight, it stays sharp, it cuts straight, and it has a little ledge at the top and the bottom that you can cut against. Not all trimmers have that. So see how you can put the paper up against the ledge at the top or the bottom, which is a big deal to me. I can cut thin strips with this with absolutely no problem. It's comfortable to use, it's lasted a long time, and I can't recommend it enough. If you do want a bigger trimmer, there is, again, a large guillotine trimmer. I just find it too big for me and a bit cumbersome. I really like how handy this one is, and I use it for 90% of my trimming. Now, when I do need to cut something bigger, the tool that I've been reaching for is the We Are Memory Keepers, The Works. Now this, I have never seen a tool like this before. It is amazing. Now I've been using this off screen for about 6 months now just to make sure I'm happy with it before I recommend it. This I use as a bigger trimmer and a bigger scoring board. Now this tool does much more though, and you want to keep the little booklet that comes with it because there are lots of instructions in here that are very helpful. Let's go through what it can do. You can use it as a trimmer, which is what I do, and as a scoreboard, the other use I have it for. However, this can also be used to make envelopes, like you do with an envelope punch board, and it has all the instructions here, and the tool holds everything you need for it. You can also create pieces with tabs. You see that orange picture there in the center bottom, so you can use this for organization. You can also use the works to create tags. So there are many different types and sizes of tags you can create. You can even use this to create pom-poms and even for tassels. It has little pieces that you can prop up in the works to allow you to make those easily. There is a bow maker. I mean, I'm serious, it does all this. And it has a stamping tool. This is so well designed that, and it makes banners too. But this is so well designed because it holds all the pieces together. And you just keep that little booklet so you know how to do the different steps. So on the bottom of the tool, you have the little pegs so you can do like your bow maker. There is a little scoring tool there. You also have 2 little magnets that are stuck to the bottom. So if you want to use this as a stamping tool. There's also this little one here that shows you how to create an envelope from this tool. I'm telling you, this thing is crazy. Some brilliant engineer had a field day with this. Now the side swings out there, and there are the different punches to make your envelope, but it also swings out so you can measure bigger pieces. Now this surface here, you can see there are grid lines, so you can do scoring, but it also is a stamping tool. So you can put your cardstock in there, put your stamp in there, hold it in place with the little magnets. Then this piece pops on top, and that's your stamping tool. It's crazy how this works. Okay, so now you can press it down and you have your stamp, and now you can ink up your stamp, and this piece here, this plate here, pops back on at the top on those magnets, and when you press it down, you'll get a nice stamped image. It really stamps well, and now you could ink it up again if you want to, and stamp in the exact same place if you want to. Now, I don't use this for a stamping tool because I have one, but if you're looking for a tool that will do a lot of different things, this is a good option. Now, this piece flips out based on whether or not you're doing scoring or if you're doing trimming. If you're using it as a trimmer, you can see that little slot there is where the blade will run. Now, you can use the measuring on the bottom or the top. There's metric and inches, and you can easily cut with this. This is what I reach for when I'm doing bigger pieces of cardstock or doing any kind of scoring of bigger pieces. To me, I found that this has cut very straight, and I can cut small pieces. I will start to use this more in videos. Now that I've tested it a lot on my own, I like to make sure I really like something before I share it. And this is what I've been using when I do my mass producing. So I've gotten a lot of use out of it and been very happy with it. I have made envelopes with it and it works very well, and I'll be sure to share that in a video. So this is kind of like an all-in-one tool where you can really get your money's worth out of it if you're using all of the different elements. Now, if you are looking for a bigger trimmer, that's just a trimmer, I would recommend that Tim Holtz guillotine in the bigger size. But again, this is the one that I have been reaching for, and it really has worked well. Okay, for scoring, if I need to score a bigger piece of paper, this is what I've been reaching for. I found it gives really nice straight lines. But for a regular scoring board, you've seen me use this a lot in videos, I like the Score Buddy. It does hold a scoring tool at the top, but I usually use my bone folder instead. I've been really liking the Altenew bone folder, which I will link to below. That's definitely been my favorite because it has a nice sharper point to it. And with the Score Buddy, you can score a bigger piece. You just score and then rotate and score again. But this smaller size Score Buddy is very handy. So there is a bigger Score Pal out there, but I do prefer the smaller size for most of my card making. One important thing to note, when you score, you're going to fold it opposite what you think. So let me show you that again. I'll put this in my scoreboard and I'll do a score line. Where I run my bone folder, I'm making like a little indentation or a valley, right? Now, the way you want to fold this is pick it up and just fold it backwards. So you're going to take that valley and turn it into a mountain. And that way you'll get a nice score line without any cracking of paper. And by the way, this is how I make my top folding note cards. I score my cardstock right down the middle at 5.5. So I score it part of the way, rotate it, score it the rest of the way. So now we have a valley there, and I'll just take it and fold it the opposite to form a mountain. And now I have a folded piece of cardstock. All I need to do is cut that in half at 4.25, and I end up with two top folding note cards that are 4.25 by 5.5. I prefer top folding, but you could definitely do side folding if that's what you prefer. Okay, let's move on to some other tools. I have definitely loved the iCrafter retractable pick this year. I like how the piercer kind of pops in and out very easily, and I use this a lot with my dies. Also from iCrafter, I really like the flathead reverse tweezers. These are the type of tweezers that when you let go, they grab onto something, which is really handy in crafting. So you can use these to hold something while you heat emboss, but what I like to do is be able to hold it and place small things onto my cards without my hands getting in the way. Very handy tool to have, and I really like the flathead version of this. It gives me a better control over what I'm holding. Now in 2020, off screen, I've been using my sanding blocks a lot. I found them in my drawer and I decided to try them out again. They've been around for ages and I have fallen back in love. The reason I have not shown them in videos is they've been out of stock. I think the company might be moving or whatever, so they've been hard to get. So I've been trying to wait to share them. Hopefully they'll be back in stock soon. They come in, I think, a set of 5, and they're great for removing ink on the surface of your cardstock. Say you get a fingerprint or you just got a little boo-boo. We're not talking about ink that's soaked into the paper. Like, you can't erase a stamped image. But the sanding block works great to remove any ink on the surface. In the past, I've also used a little sand eraser and the Creative Detailer. I still use those sometimes, but I found that the paper sanding block ends up being kind of like the big mama workhorse. Like, it really can do a better job and smooth the paper out evenly. It's also good for kind of smoothing out cut edges of cardstock or folded edges. So you'll see me start to use this in videos again. It really is a handy, inexpensive tool to have. I also highly recommend having an anti-static powder bag. I have switched to the powder bag because the tool that I used to use would get clogged and kind of drove me crazy. So what I do is I take my powder bag and I fold it in half and put a binder clip on it. That way my fingers don't get the powder on it. It's much easier to apply and control. Got this trick from my friend Ricky, and I'll link to his channel here. So if you see in videos I have this little tool, that's what it is. It's great at removing static before heat embossing, but also stick from anything that might be sticky on your project. Another tool that is a workhorse in my craft room is the T-roller. It's inexpensive and it saves the day a lot. You can use it to easily make measurements on your card, and you can use it to easily put down your sentiments straight. Having that T-roller edge is a huge advantage, and you've probably seen me do many techniques with it. Again, inexpensive and used on almost every card. Next up, we have Gina K Masking Magic. Now, if you like to do masking, I highly recommend using Masking Magic because it holds up well over time, yet it's very thin, so you can stamp right up to the edge. Now, I've done many videos with Masking Magic, and remember, I will be linking below to videos that demonstrate these products. I can't demonstrate everything in the video because it's already long as is, but you can check out those videos. But here I'll just show you. I'm pressing a ton of black ink on this, on the top of this masking paper. Other masking papers, that black ink would probably bleed through. But check this out. When I flip it over and peel off the release paper, you'll see that the black ink did not seep through to the other side. Since it holds up nicely also, I can save my masks in with my stamp set so I can use them again in the future. Next up, we have Glad Press and Seal. This is wonderful in the kitchen, but even better in the craft room. So basically, this is a clear plastic that rolls out, and it has adhesive in little valleys on it. So when you press it, it holds. So what I like to do is assemble little die cuts on my work surface. Then I can press this on top, pick them all up together, put adhesive on the back, and then place them on my card. So much better than trying to place each one individually. And again, I'll link to a video demonstrating that. All right, I use a lot of pearls and gems on my cards, so I recommend the Cat Scrappiness Funnel Tray. I've tried many different trays over the years, and I really like this one. It comes with a cap, but I don't use that. And it makes it so much easier to spread out your gems to find what you need, and then pour them back in. I also like the Cat Scrappiness Pickup Tool. I've tried many other pickup tools in the past, and for some reason, this one just works really well for me. The tip picks up nicely, and the other end you can use to move your little elements. I also use this pickup tool to pick up small die cuts to add onto my card. And here you can see how the funnel tray works. You can easily just put all your little gemstones back into your small container. Really is handy, and if you use a lot of gems like me, it's a lifesaver. Now I still use triangle trays for my heat embossing. So you see this little tray here? I can easily scoop out my embossing powder and add it to my card. I used to use little spoons, but this is quicker because I can cover a larger area on my cardstock with the powder at one time, and it's really easy to scoop out that way. Now, as for a heat gun, I have been using this Hero Arts heat gun for years, and I believe this one was discontinued and they have a new version. I'm sorry, I haven't tried out the new version because this one still works for me. I do recommend getting a high quality heat gun that gets hot very quickly and stays hot. And the Wagner has always been that for me. I will be trying out other heat guns this year, and I will let you know if I find something that works better. But for me, this one's been around for years and I've really enjoyed using it. Another tool that I have tried many of over the years is a sprayer. You want to get one that does a nice mist. I have settled on the Tim Holtz sprayer. I've used this for a few years now. It has a lock on it so you can make it so it won't accidentally spray. If you spray a full press of the button, you get a great mist. If you do a partial press, you can get little splotches of water, a little splatter. I like that you can have that control. It's a large, easy to spray bottle, and I even have extra one that I've already put my perfect pearl in so that I can spray a pearlized water too. Great sprayer, definitely have tried many. Next up, microfiber cloth. I do recommend having dry cloths and multiples of them for cleaning up when you're crafting. I don't think it's necessary to use a baby wipe often. This microfiber cloth has been great for me. I just use it until it gets too inky and then I throw it in the wash. I have a few of them, so you'll see me use different colors in different videos, but I really like the microfiber cloth. It's also great for rubbing on the surface of new stamps to get them ready to take ink. Now, sometimes I still like to use baby wipes, but not very often. I used to use them a lot more, and I switched to using the reusable cloth. But if I do use baby wipes, I use the Kirkland brand. Use these for many years. They don't have a smell to it and they don't leave little fibers behind. What I've been doing lately is if I do use a baby wipe, I just keep it in a little bowl on my work surface. And then when I need another wet cloth, I spray it with water to kind of give it a little more life again, and I can reuse it. And that way I can get multiple uses from one baby wipe. All right, you've seen this in my favorite crafty things, I think since the beginning, and it is a hand vac. My most used tool in the craft room as I make a mess when I craft. This is great to have charging in your craft room. All you have to do is remove it. It's cordless and it's small, and you swing it out and you can suck up all of that little trash on your desk or on your floor. I haven't switched brands. I'm sure there are other ones out there that work great and are probably even better, but this is the one I've been using. In fact, I have two in my craft room and I have one in my kitchen because I use them so much, and I have for many years. But I do recommend having a hand vac. Another product I do highly recommend, especially if you do die cutting, is a low tack tape. Now, I will be honest, I spent a ridiculous amount of time and money trying out so many different low tack tapes in 2020. I was determined to find the best one to share with everyone, and this was by far, landslide, the best. It's called Easy Tape. And I found that I can use this to hold my dies in place. It holds nicely, and I can reuse the pieces multiple times, which I think is also a nice perk. I do have an inexpensive tape dispenser that I put this tape in so I can easily grab the pieces as I'm crafting. Another tool that I've used a lot this year is a laminator. Now, there are many laminators out there. I use the Royal Sovereign. I have this size and the bigger size. I use it for crafting and non-crafting. I use it for card making and also for organization in my craft room. I will be doing an organization video soon where I'll show how I use this to make my dividers. Now, I use this also to do foiling on my cards. I also use it to smooth out any warped pieces that I created, maybe with watercolor. I also use it with laminating pouches for crafting and non-crafting, and I'll link to the laminating pouches I like. But really, any kind of inexpensive laminator can be a very helpful tool in the craft room. Now, one of the positive things that came out of 2020 for me personally was my first use of the gel press, and I fell hard. I highly recommend a gel press and a brayer for any crafter because it allows you to take other crafting supplies you have and get new looks and a load of fun from them. The gel plate and the brayer is something that you can use over and over again many times with many different products. I have done a couple videos so far on the gel press, and I have many planned for this new year. So recommend checking it out. There are many different size gel press plates out there, even fun shapes. This one is the basic 5x7, which I like because I can trim it down to add to a card. And for a brayer, this is the one I reach for the most. It's a 4-inch brayer, but you could try any different size. Another tool that I really like because I can use it with other supplies I have to get new looks is the Gina K Wreath Builder. And she has come out with an improved wreath builder design. Now, I've done many with the original wreath builder, but the improved one has little markings on it that allow you to easily line things up, and it has additional pieces too. I'll be doing a video on this very soon, but if you have never used a wreath builder, I encourage you to check out the videos I've done. It's an excellent way to get new, fun looks, especially out of those small little images in your stamp sets that rarely get any attention. Here are a few cards that I've done in the past with a wreath builder. You can see how I take small images and create these really amazing focal points on your card. So there you have it, my favorite tools for 2020. Now, I will say that I'm unable to fit all of my links in my description below on YouTube. So I do encourage you to go to my blog to be able to easily navigate and find what you're looking for. I'll provide links for the products and videos featuring them. At the end of this video, I have 2 links in the middle. One is to my playlist for 2020, my favorite crafty things. The other is to my 2019 inking video that I really hope you'll watch. And on the top right is a link to my blog. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another video soon, and have a wonderful weekend.